Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Tell you what, many people have said, Ashraf, please get Moletti Mbeki in the spotlight. But at the moment, he's always said no, no, no. I can tell you now, obviously, I try to twist his arms outside more than even just on the air. So hopefully, he will say yes. He said he'll think about it. I'm sure you want to know about other things besides the country. Just what exactly makes that man tick. Thanks so much for the many SMSs and callers. Certainly appreciate that. Now, I'll tell you what, we're going to do things very, very differently. Putting in the spotlight Michael Mol. Someone asked, I see someone tweeted and said, is this Michael Mol guy with the same name as the guy on top billing? Are they related? So I said, well, either way, it's not a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde issue. This very much is the same person indeed. So Dr. Michael Mol, good afternoon, and how are you?
Ashraf, I'm great, man. It's good to be with you again.
Yeah, so you've been called a doctor once again, because when we last, well, no, not when we met in the studio. I met you in Durban, I met you in Cape Town, of course, when the Expresso was about to start. But before that, it is very clear you were Michael Mol, the top billing presenter. But now you're
That's
Dr.
right.
Michael Mol once again.
Well, always Dr. Michael Mol. In fact, someone said to me the other day, are you really a doctor? In fact, I think it was Jack Dillon on the show. I'm interviewing the guy talking about his cholesterol, and he stops. He goes, "Are you really a doctor?"
You're just someone who can imitate a doctor pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is official, Ashraf, but I think you know that.
Of course. Well, okay. So Michael Mol in the spotlight, 0891 104 207 if you want to say hi to him. And you certainly know how the spotlight works. It's a profile as we sort of chat about the person, about whatever comes up. And certainly a challenge for you if you know Michael. Well, hopefully if he's the doctor and you've been his patient, if you want to say hi to him as well, great. But if you also
complaints, please. No
absolutely
complaints, yeah.
If you're related to him as well, if you want to say hello as well, that's also fantastic. If you've worked with him at any level, if you just want to, as a fan, say hi to him as well. Of course, a new show that has just started, of course, on SABC3. I think Friday's about 3:45, thereabouts, just after we finish this show, maybe rightfully so. So all of that, okay, 0891 104 207. SMSs 3471, that'll cost you R2. You can also tweet, follow me, Ashraf Garda1, and you can comment on Facebook as well. Right, Michael, so good chatting to you. So now I see your Sunday show is not Sunday show anymore, right?
Ashraf, you said good chatting to sound like that was the end of the interview. I'm going, what? We haven't even started, you know.
You mean you want to talk?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've had the most engrossing hour with
Moletti,
and I don't know if you I'm hoping you did listen in, because you should be making notes on that one, isn't it?
Yeah, fascinating gentleman. Hey?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Did ask him, by the way, they said, everybody says you become the president, why don't you? And his answer to me was, goodness, you saw what happened to my brother. They chased him out. So that's the end of that discussion. Anyway, so you now have a new show.
It's not that new. Our show's been around for the last year or so.
But there's a name change, right?
3.
Yeah.
There is a name change, yeah. It was Hello Doctor. It's now the Dr. Mol Show. And it kind of coincided with our year's anniversary at the beginning of April. And we brought in a different look and feel. We brought in an audience, and now this gets taped live in front of an audience, so that's still to tape. And that changes the dynamic of the show somewhat, but it's been brilliant to have people in studio. It keeps me on my toes. I can't just do take 1 after take 2 after take 3. It has to happen live, as it were. Mm-hmm. And that's been great. It's really, I think, upped the energy of the show, and it's great to get audience interaction and really getting people asking those questions and wanting to know what viewers want to know. So it's been a fascinating learning curve. And as I said, into season 3 already. So
now. I know you're also involved heading up an organization, right? What is it? Some medical company of sorts you're involved in? What is that?
A company called Hello Doctor.
No. Before that, there was something else you were doing now.
Would it be Tomorrow Today? I'm trying to think what medical...
What else did you do? Well, I mean, maybe you were selling some product. You were involved in some company.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
a nutritional company.
That's it, yes.
That's right, yeah.
Still
company called
involved
Sportron, not involved anymore. The company's still going strong. Nutritional supplements. I've always been of the belief and still promote that belief that we need to supplement every single day. I think having your 5 fruits and vegetables every day is great, but the content of those fruits and vegetables aren't necessarily nutritional enough. So we need to supplement to kind of make up for the gaps in our diets.
Okay. When you reflect on your career right now, can you quite believe what has happened to you? Because there are many people who are doctors and who are miserable, and you know that, right? And then there are many people getting into sort of radio and TV, and things just not getting what they want to be. I mean, you'll be able to merge the two and being spectacular in terms of that career. So if you reflect on it now, I mean, can you quite believe what has happened to you in terms of your life and your career?
Let me answer that two ways, Asher. Firstly, you mentioned a lot of doctors are miserable. I don't know if miserable is the actual word.
It's even worse.
It's probably frustrated or, challenged. But I think most doctors become doctors because of a love of people and a need to serve. So just to qualify that. But in terms of, where I find myself today, would never have thought, quite honestly. I mean, I, at school and when I was studying, just wanted to end up in some mission hospital somewhere, just kind of serving the poor, a bit of a Mother Teresa or idealism, if you like. So today, I find myself not at all where I'd planned to be, but loving it. All of a sudden, as opposed to treating one-on-one individuals, I get to convey education in an entertaining way to millions, literally.
Because would you say then, in that sense, you're making a greater impact? I mean, you could well be the doctor, the GP in a surgery, you could be a specialist somewhere else, but it's important not to be minimizing it all. We all know when we need help, right? But you're now able to impart to a broader audience on a big scale all in one go. From a personal point, it must be incredibly empowering.
It really is. And when you say greater impact, yes, I think in numbers, not necessarily, individually. I think one-on-one, it's still so much better to go and see a person, to journey with a patient or with a doctor has far-reaching, effects as opposed to watching a television show. But step back for a moment, and all of a sudden, you've got literally, as I said, millions of people who are listening to what you're saying. And all of a sudden, firstly, the responsibility of saying the right things and making sure they're correct and accurate, but also the sense of the kind of feedback I've been getting, that it does make a difference. For years, and this is no criticism of top billing, people would stop me and say, I love what you do. I love watching the show, the places you go, the people you meet. I mean, that's the best job in the world, which it really was. But now people are stopping me saying, I quit smoking because of something I saw on your show. Or I had my blood pressure tested. I've never tested it because you said we should. And I discovered I'm pre-hypertensive or I have high blood pressure and it's being treated. Or I ran the half marathon because of something you suggested. So all of a sudden the feedback has changed. And it seems to be far more life-changing in a way, and that's what floats my boat.
Some may say far more real. We'll talk about the real and the unreal, or the real and the plastic. I don't know. As we continue putting Michael Mol in the spot, but I can assure it's not the end of the interview till 4:45. Let's get to the callers then. 0891 104 207. Imran in Durban. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf.
Hi, Imran.
I've been a great fan of Michael Mol's on Top Billing and also on his current show, but I have a little complaint. My wife always says that's the way he should end up. Because he's so eloquent, he's so presentable, he's always saying the right things and doing the right things. So from a guy's perspective, he's not too good. But
how would you like me to respond, Imran?
but seriously, we always use him to the kids as an example to say, look, here's a guy who's a medical doctor who can achieve what he wants to achieve. So thumbs up to him and well done.
Hey, Imran, thank you so much, man. That's hugely encouraging. Really appreciate that. Let me tell you what I tell my kids about that, because there are two schools of thought. One is, how can a guy who studied medicine and give 7 years of study suddenly go into media and just do television? Surely
and waste their time going to where did you go? Croatia and Slovakia and places like that, isn't it? So what do you tell them?
Well, here it is. We were born to do certain things, and that sounds like a horrible cliche, but there are certain talents that God-given talents that we have and that we're born with. And if we don't discover those or hone those or turn those talents, if you like, into a strength, then we're going to end up, somewhere between the cradle and the cubicle, not doing what we were meant to do. I mean, I really believe that there's certain giftings that we're given that need to kind of be nurtured. And if you can figure out what that is, what those strengths are, and then tilt the playing field of your life toward those strengths, it makes all the difference in the world. I took a big risk a little while ago. I mean, Ashraf, you mentioned earlier, was heading up a company, corner office, great salary, and...
Okay, I think we've lost that guest, but carry on. Thanks for that, Imran. Yep.
And suddenly thought, am I really playing to my strengths? And the honest answer was no, I wasn't. And so I took the huge risk of almost uprooting, of resigning, and starting again with a TV show of all things about medicine that's been done before. Are you really wanting to do this, Michael, and risk your family and all that sort of stuff?
Because let me put it this way: if let's say up to about 2 years ago, if someone told you that well, of course you are this doctor, but and you've got this organization, this company, the sports one thing, but the reality is this top billing guy, and everybody knows you, and I mean everybody, probably as no, even more popular than president, that type of scenario. I mean, you've got it made, right? So are you saying, on the one hand, you've got it made, but even then, you had some misgivings about what else you need to be doing to fulfill your own destiny. Is that right?
Absolutely. Except you talk about have it made, and I think a lot of people will pin the word success on that. You're successful, and it's often how you define success. In my life, success kind of fell short of something called significance. And for me, the difference between success and significance is really people. Success is about me and what I can generate for myself. Significance is saying, hey, what am I doing for the community? What am I doing for people around me? And for me, that's a higher calling than success. And I think you can be significant without being successful. If you count Mother Teresa, for example, used her earlier, successful, not really in economic terms, but significant, hugely so to so many people. So, shame, I can't actually compare myself to Mother Teresa. That's horrible. That's
well, I mean,
forgive me, I'm going to repeal that.
So you did you feel slightly unfulfilled then? In spite of the fact that to the public, and I have to use it again, like you got it made, so this guy's, it's all fulfilled. Whatever he's wanted, he's got it. And to a large degree you did, but you did feel unfulfilled as well.
For that very reason, am I being significant? Sure, I'm being successful, and in the public eye, very successful, which is great, but am I really making a difference in people's lives? And I'm not saying that the show currently is doing exactly that, but it's closer to doing that than, for example, a top billing was, or running a company per se. So those are the questions I grappled with, and those are the reasons I took the decisions I did. And as I said earlier, took a risk, and followed a path of playing to my strengths, I guess.
0891 104 207. Michael Mol, the risk taker, is the man in the spotlight. Do you say that then top billing with hindsight was is glamorous but also pretty superficial?
It's a tough question, that Ashraf, and is this in the spotlight or in the hot seat?
Well, it's both, I suppose.
I think what top billing gave us and gave all presenters is a wonderful platform, and I think and I would kind of encourage all the existing top billing presenters to use that platform for something not necessarily greater, but something significant, because all of a sudden you do have an audience, you do have a viewership that wants to know what you think and how you feel about certain issues. Use that wisely. Top billing is a bit of escapism. It was wonderful to travel, and it was entertainment, and that's what we essentially watch television for, is to be entertained, not necessarily educated. And top billing fulfilled that role beautifully. It just, in my own life, got to a point where I thought I need to be doing something more than just entertaining. Was that very PC? What do you think?
No, it's the beauty part.
Was that a political answer?
Since it's in the spotlight, whatever you say, I listen. If it was in the hot seat, then I must say, well, you lying.
Ask it again.
All right, I'll get to me in just a second. There's an interesting one. Dumisani tweeting saying, "Tell your guest that his show inspires me to live my best life." I mean, you'd like that quote, isn't it?
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Tell your
that
guest
kind of feedback.
Yeah, tell your guest that
wonderful.
his show inspires me to live my best life. Lovely,
that's brilliant.
Dumisani,
in fact, that's it's Dumisani, hey?
Dumisani Mishlangu, yeah.
Dumisani, thank you. That's part of the vision of the show, is to educate, entertain, and inspire people to live their best life. So you got the nail on the head, mate. Okay,
Mutubi in Toyondo. Let's hear what's your stories. Hi,
Ashraf and doctor there, the good doctor there.
Hey, Mutubi.
I can't agree more with what you just said in terms of everyone having his or her own talents or gifts, so to speak, to sort of I have just completed a book. It's called Tutsek. Well, it's not a swear word. It means go away, as we say. We know. I've profiled Dr. Michael Mol, not in a big way. I'm trying to see if will I be infringing upon his individual right if I were to put his picture there, because I've profiled a few other South Africans who have made it and who are making inroads into what we call a no-job situation.
Okay, well, we'll ask him directly. He's listening to you. Okay, Michael, go for it. Your answer?
Firstly, Matubi, well done. I assume you wrote that book as opposed to I'm going through a book. But Matubi, why don't you send me what you've written? Let me have a read, and more than likely we'll agree with everything you said, and we'll send back a profile picture for you, and you can have it published. Why not?
Terrific. terrific.
Okay, so
I'm going to do that. So I'll need your email address and stuff.
I tell you what, I'll give that to SFM, and you can get it from them after the show. How's that?
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very
we'll
much.
certainly do that. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to email me and connect with Michael, just email me to Ashraf, spelled ASHRAF, Ashraf at safm.co.za. Let's just then go back, Michael, to where it all started for you. Your early life, your family life that we know very little about. And I'm talking of your parents,
Well, how far back do you want to go?
Well, as far as you want to go.
I grew up in a family of 3 children. I'm the eldest of a younger brother and a younger sister. 2 wonderful parents who are still married, celebrated, I'm going to get this wrong, I think 40 years already, a little more than that, so in fact beyond that. So very privileged. I'm well aware that we grew up in a country and a world, in fact, where families are fragmented. And so it's more the exception than the rule that you grew up in a family united as ours was. So I count that a huge privilege, and I'm trying to do the same with my family currently. I've got 3 little kids, an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And trying to really, I suppose, emulate what my father and mother brought to our family as we were growing up. So I grew up in Pretoria, born in Cape Town, but did most of my schooling in Pretoria, studied there as well, University of Pretoria, Takkies. I studied in Afrikaans. Can you believe it?
Did you? Really?
Yeah. I was...
So why isn't the Afrikaans accent coming out?
Too many years on top billing, I think. Elocution lessons.
Okay.
Listening to Barry Wronger,
Okay.
I was one of, I think, 3, maybe 4 English students at the time, long hair, and was getting a lot of flack from my professors who didn't want me on ward rounds with hair like that. Engelsman, takhare, all that sort of thing. But had a great experience at the varsity, qualified, and then spent about 4 years, Ashraf, in emergency rooms, casual units in and around Pretoria, Johannesburg. Flew the emergency chopper, Echo 1 and 2, that serviced Gauteng area. So did some dangerous and some fascinating work, extricating patients out of burning shacks and sort of factory accidents, all sorts of things. And then got a call. In fact, there was a little thing of a competition, but we'll skip over that. And then got a call from Patient Stevens, executive producer of Toppling, still there, to just say, hey, we've heard about you. Would you come for an interview? And I'm kind of speeding up this whole historical process, but really stood in front of the cameras, and I remember looking at these lights and the cameraman and the camera thinking, man, if only someone right now would collapse and have a heart attack, because I know how to deal with that, but don't give me lights, camera, action. That just scares the life out of me. And I think messed up my interview horribly, or my take to camera, and thought, well, that's the last time I will ever be considered for anything on television, and yet got the call the following day to say, hey, we like what we see. Would you like to spend some time with us and try out a little bit of time on television?
So did you ask them why? To say, in spite of you sort of messing up, they still saw something in you.
I did, and I think Patience just had a gut feel. She said, well, the camera likes you, whatever that means. I have no idea. But I think years later down the line, my wife put her thumb on a Jackie when someone said to her, who's Michael really? And she said, well, actually, what you see is what you get. He's not a different person off camera. What he is, who he is on camera is exactly who he is at home and with his friends. And I think that really helped me, because trying to be someone else or portraying, who you're not is an absolute nightmare. And I guess that's why presenters can present and actors can act, and why presenters can't act, because if you're acting, you've got to play someone else, and I'm just terrible at doing it.
So when you went to all these exotic places all around the world, I mean, obviously you enjoyed it, but I mean, clearly the brief has got to be going to sound completely taken by this place, isn't it?
The brief for me was always, this story is going to go out to a whole bunch of people who might never get the privilege of traveling, or who have never been to the country you've been to. Let them experience the country, taste it, feel it, see it through your eyes. And that's always how I approached any sort of destination, was, looking over my shoulder, come along, see, let's explore this place together, and let's have a bit of fun while we're doing that. And I think that went down well with most of our viewers. Very self-deprecating, wasn't too look at me and look what I'm doing, but yeah, let's do this together, let's experience this together. I remember years ago in Australia, I don't know why this comes up right now, I might have this effect on me, but was with an Aboriginal guide who was sort of taking me through the outback in Australia, and he was showing me lemon ants. And he said, these are called lemon ants because that's how they taste. And I said, well, really, then I'm going to try one. And I tried it and bit into it, and it really did taste like lemon. To which I said, wow, this does taste like lemon. And he says, I don't know, I've never tried one of those, So it's been kind of fascinating sort of experiences like that I think people have remembered and enjoyed.
Let's get to some of the other callers too. But before I get to CC in Gauteng, someone's saying top billing, to my mind, should be called Scraping the Barrel. It's the one program that has me diving for the remote to switch off. Well, somebody said, thank goodness you're not doing top billing any longer because they can't speak about that. Watch Dr. Mol show Friday 4:45 on SABC3. That should sort that out, isn't it?
And they're varying views, and we know that. There are people that love it, there are people that hate it, and you're more than welcome to own those views and hold on to them. That's
of course, Michael Mol. Surely there's not everything that goes out on top billing that you absolutely enjoy. I mean, as a presenter, in the same way that you would be, a rugby player in the 15-man Springbok team just picked by Heineke Meyer, that you have to fit into a game plan, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And I once said to patients, half the show this week was boring. And she said, well, that's good because what you think is exciting, only half of South Africa thinks it's exciting. The rest of the half thinks it's boring. So, or doesn't like what you enjoy. So that was an interesting sort of, illumination of her approach to say there's got to be a wide appeal to a wide audience, which is why you get the lovers and the haters.
Indeed. Okay, let's get to one of the other callers too. CC in Gauteng. Hello. Hi, you're on the air. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yes, good afternoon.
Dr. Mol.
Hi.
I just wanted to commend the good doctor there. I think he's doing quite well. And the other thing that he said is that he, as people, we've got a duty to actually look for what is it that we can do better, our talent basically, and that will get us fulfilled. And I think he's doing quite well. But I disagree with him on one thing that he said that you can be significant, but not in terms of economical. You can be successful but significant. But I believe that if you go and if you do what you love, you can actually make money out of it. I've got a friend who quit his job a few years ago, and he's not really rich, but he's doing quite well. So I think if you really follow what you love, then you really can make money out of it. So I think he's doing quite well, and I would encourage other young people to follow his suit instead of aligning success with money, turning up and stuff. So go after what you love, and you're likely to make money out of it.
Okay, let's get a response. Thanks for that call. Did you get that?
I did, and I fully agree with you. I think you might have slightly misunderstood my sort of position there, but you're so right. In fact, there was a wonderful study that Gallup did some years ago. It was 1984. There were 1,500 business graduates who just qualified, and they asked them this question: what are you now going to do? Pursue financial independence or pursue your passions and your strengths? 89% of the group said financial independence first, we'll do the higher things in life later. Only 11% said no, forget the cash, we're going to pursue our passions. 20 years later, Ashraf, 20 years, they surveyed the same group in 2004. They discovered 101 multi-dollar millionaires, one of which belonged to the 89% group.
Really?
Which is fascinating. And it really was emphasizing, I think it was Cece who was on the phone, just saying what you're saying. Find what you love or do what you love, and you will be successful, you will be significant. My initial statement was to say you don't have to be successful economically to be significant. But I think significance is a wonderful form of success anyway. And if you can attach it to financial success, even better.
Are you financially successful?
I would say so. But, as soon as you compare yourself to anybody, Ashraf, and you know this, you win and you lose. You can always compare down, you can always compare up. And so I make a point of telling my kids the one thing you never do is compare when it comes to any aspects of life.
Okay, point well made. We'll get to Colleen's views from Port Elizabeth. There's a couple of people saying exactly what type of, about your show, about the Dr. Mol show. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. It's 3:30, Dr. Michael Mol in the spotlight. Pick out some of the tweets as well. Ashraf Garda 1 if you want to tweet me, and I'll pick out those questions if you want to ask me any of those. Let's get the news headlines now, 3:30. For now, Michael Mol is my guest. Many people saying, please put the podcast of this interview together with Molethi and Becky. Put them on podcast. So, okay. Yes, you asked, we'll do it tomorrow. Sometime tomorrow, I'll make sure it gets done on the safm.co.za website. Colleen in Port Elizabeth, hi.
Yes, it's Colin.
Is it Colin? Okay, my apologies for that. But
all right.
maybe Colleen's got a nicer ring to it. But anyway, go for it.
That's fine. Ashraf, I just want to say congratulations to Dr. Mol. It's actually a success for him to be able to follow something else other than what he trained for. I'm one person who reads quite a lot of people's biographies and all that, and I've just noticed one interesting trend. I don't know if some people might disagree, but majority of the successful people are people who have gone out and done something that they actually did not train for. So I would actually say that majority of us out there, we are prisoners of our certificates. We get tied on to what we trained for. We forget that there's something else that we could do with our lives.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Let's get Michael to respond. Thanks for that, Colin. Because, one could say that may well have been the case if we were chatting to Dr. Michael Mol a year and a half ago. But that's not the case at the moment, right? Michael?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ashraf, what Colin said, we're prisoners of our certificates. I've written that down. That's fantastic. I couldn't agree with you more, because if you think about when we make that decision to what we're going to study, we're at 18, 17, 18. Do we really know what our talents and strengths and passions are then? And you study what you study, and then as soon as you get out of varsity, you've got to pay off your home loans, get a job. It's what the boss says, what your colleagues say, what the customers want. And all of a sudden, we do get off our strengths track. And years down the line, that something that separates our childish hopefulness of what we're going to be one day and what we end up being, we lose out on the potential of following those dreams and following what we should be doing. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think today the biggest challenge we're faced with, and I think the former, I think he's not the Minister of Education in the States, but the Secretary of Education, was saying, and we all know this, that in, I think, 2010, the top 10 jobs didn't exist sort of 3 or 4 years ago. And that kids leaving school today are being trained to do things and to solve problems we don't know we don't know exist yet.
Indeed.
So there's such a dynamic in terms of how the world is changing, that for me to find a career that's based on your aptitude and personality, and whatever tests, doesn't really work. It would make far more sense to me, and this is what I'm trying to do with my own children, is to get them to figure out and help them discover their own strengths. And then,
and how would you do that? I mean, it seems so simple, but how does one discover one's own strengths?
Well, there's a shortcut. You can go to a website called strengthsfinder.com. There's a website called strengthsexplorer.com for kids. And that's a good place to start, Ashraf. You can buy a book that'll give you a code in it, that sort of thing. But you literally go online, do an assessment, takes you half an hour, and literally spits out your sort of top 5 strengths themes. And that's a good place to start, to say, okay, so if this is who I am, this is what I'm bent towards, let me start employing those in my current work situation, and on a daily basis become, sort of focus on doing more of what I'm good at and less of what I'm bad at. I think for years we get grown up focusing on our weaknesses and our, and trying to improve on those as opposed to working on our strengths. Let me ask you this question, Ashraf. If your son or daughter came home with a report card and got an A for English, a B for accounting, and an F for mathematics, what would you concentrate on? Exactly.
I'd get the maths sorted out quickly.
Yeah, of course, we all would. As all parents do.
Yeah,
and yet, if you think about that, how many little Shakespeares haven't slipped through the school system because they've been in extra maths on a Friday and not extra English? Look, you can't avoid the mathematics. You've got to get that up to an E, but why not focus on the English, and concentrate on the strengths?
Well, let me give you one. And then I've been told by my uncle yesterday, Ashraf, when are you going to write the book of my media career? Because as I've probably discussed with you, mine happened quite by chance. I won't give you the whole story, but I will say this much. When there was a free period in class, what do you think I did? I used to do an exaggerated make-believe commentary of all different sports. And the reality, it was never picked up that this guy's got an interest in broadcasting. So that's the point, isn't it? Absolutely. Somebody had to say, hold it. And I was the only one, I think, in the entire class, when it came to speech, people would fret about it. I always loved the unprepared speech. So they were. Well,
there you go. Yeah, so, if you go back in time, you see those patterns.
They are there, right? Yeah.
My son asked me the other day, we're driving to school, he says, we're talking about strengths. So he says, okay, Dad, well, I like science, I like music, and I like football. What am I going to be one day? So I'm big swallow, let me think. And I said to him, well, Josh, imagine this. Years from now, you are an international consultant, consulting to Premier League football teams because you've come up with a type of musical rhythm that relates to each individual player. And they listen to that before a game and enhances almost perfect performance. No more off days because of your brand new musical science. What do you think? Now, I mean, his eyes lit up. Now, can that, is that a possibility?
Yes.
I don't know. I doubt it. But, the possibility's there and the dream is suddenly there. And all of a sudden, he's thinking outside the box.
Okay, well, Sibu is tweeting saying, I'm a frustrated GP. I'm listening with keen interest. And I'm assuming that a frustrated GP is not a resident of Gauteng province, but a general practitioner, right?
Absolutely.
What can you tell him?
Sure. I mean, that's tough. I think a medical degree opens up so many doors, and yet we close so many of them because we just focused on literally treating the patients that are sitting across the desk from us. If possible, I would try and build in a little bit of time, a little bit of margin that allows you to pursue some of the things that you're interested in outside of medical work. I wouldn't deviate from medicine completely, but there are so many different avenues you can go into. Even if you sort of subspecialize in a type of medicine that grabs your interest, if it's dermatology or if it's pediatrics, get into that, and almost super specialize.
But do you think just far too many people, and including myself in this one here, that we spend, if you look at that book, Who Moved My Cheese, too many people just too concerned about the day-to-day affairs and never spending time sort of visualizing what they personally want to do away from what they're currently doing and not allocating their time. So, years medical doctors would do the same. They're working, 15, 20-hour shifts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I read the book too, and I didn't actually find out who moved his cheese after all, But here's a lovely survey that was done on a number of I think it was men. I'm not sure if they weren't involved, but over the age of 75, were asked this question: how would you live your life over given the chance? And they collated all those answers, and they came up with 4 common patterns. All happened to start with an R, and here it is. We would risk more, we would reflect more, we would relax more and spend more time on relationships. Risk, reflect, relax, relationships. And for me, those first 2 are key: risk and reflect. If we don't take time to reflect, you miss out on where we could be. You're stuck with where I am and what I'm meant to do. But if you can take time just to think about where I could be, that changes things. And obviously there's risk required, and I think the relax is just to help you live a little longer, you and I, Ashraf, and the relationships, that's really what life's all about.
Indeed. There's Anne in the Western Cape saying, heard Michael speaking at a teachers' conference, he just says years, probably some years ago. Funny and fantastic. Okay, there you are. And someone saying, well, this is an interesting one. Wasn't Dr. Mol Mr. South Africa in his youth? Goodness, you've done it all.
Where'd you get that SMS? That's not a real SMS. You're just saying that, Ashraf.
No, it's from Kath, whoever Kath is, C-A-T, so maybe Catherine or Kathy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Kath. Yes, no, that is true. It was, how do I explain this? It was in my final year of med school. In fact, I was doing my internship at a little mission hospital north of Pretoria, and entered a competition to win a pair of sunglasses, Ashraf. That's honestly...
Is that what happened? Yeah.
That's what happened. And it was one of these regional sort of Mister competitions. And through my studies, I'd done a bit of modeling to help pay for my studies. And yeah, from that competition, got into the Mr. SA competition and won that. So it was... that's probably where the whole media career started. I'll never forget, on the night of the actual event, my father coming up on the stage after I'd just been announced the winner, and he kind of gave me a big hug and he said, well done, son, what have you done?
He knew even then that he'd lost you for a while already, isn't it? You're going to be somebody else's child in that sense. Right, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes to go. I'll take maybe one last caller besides the tweets. So if you want to say hi, one last chance opportunity for you to chat to Dr. Michael Mol. 0891 104 207. 0891 104 207. So, Michael, I want to speak about education and maybe just about your work, rather, in terms of what you're doing now. But to go back, if you had to wipe that slate clean of yours and you were now, 17 years old, and had ambitions in terms of your career, what would you be choosing right now?
Ashraf, I'd still choose medicine. Medicine for me wasn't a good career choice. It was just something that was inherent, a sense of, I can really make a difference in someone else's life. How do I best do that? And at that stage, when you and I were studying, there was sort of doctor, lawyer, teacher, and one other career I can't think right now. There were almost limited options. And so medical was the career option for me, and I wouldn't change that. I still love the fact that I have that degree, and I still love the fact that I am a doctor by training, and would never want to change that. come to think of it, the media side has been wonderful as well. I now look back at also how I grew up. You talked about sort of broadcasting and telling great stories. The guy doing all the family home videos at home was me. I was the one with the camera creating these little movies and the stories, and you don't sort of take that into account until many years later. You find yourself in a position, as you and I are in media, and you think, if you look back at how I grew up and what interested me, there it was, man. Video camera in hand, telling stories. Now I'm just living out that childhood want, I suppose.
Indeed. Okay, I said I'll take one call. There's a flood of people calling. Let's see if I can squeeze like 30-second comments into it. Dale in Joburg, hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Is that Ashraf?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much for taking my call. Good afternoon, Michael. I appreciate listening to what you said this afternoon.
Thanks, Dale.
I was wondering if you could tell me if being a Christian man has influenced a lot of what you've done and given you the great achievements and the sense of achievement that you've had in your career.
Great question, Dale, and you also hit the nail on the head. For me, Ashraf, my faith, my belief in God is central to who I am. And I think that's where that need for significance is born from. And where so much of life kind of plays itself out. So, Dale, you're so right. That I'm trying to keep this to 30 seconds, Ashraf.
Okay, got that, made the point, yeah.
Yep.
But Dale, thanks for that one. I think good question indeed. Right. Okay, so in terms of your show, we got about a minute and a half to go. What sort of impact has the show made on you? Forget about what it's made on other people.
Well, firstly, I've had to up my knowledge because all of a sudden, you get a very narrow field of knowledge, particularly even as GPs, because you treat what you see, and that tends to be where you focus. And all of a sudden, I'm having to draw on historical knowledge. I'm having to up what I'm learning to cover all the topics that we cover on the show. So for me, it's been a fascinating re-exposure to medicine. And I'm feeling on top of my game at the moment. And all of a sudden, I am answering questions from friends and family and people in the street who, normally they'd sort of stop and ask me something and I kind of, maybe just pass them off or recommend them to a website. Now I'm actually getting to answer those. So I've enjoyed that learning per se.
Somebody asked, is Michael Mol the son of Professor Mol from UNISA Business Management? Is that
formerly UNISA? Yes. Arnold Mol, my father wrote a number of books on parenting and management and conflict management, all sorts of things, a spiritual book too. So, that's the guy.
Okay, indeed. So it seems like for you then virtually every week, every Friday now is like getting to the operating theatre, isn't it? In medical terms.
In fact, no, Ashraf.
No?
I'll tell you why not. Because the operating theatre implies cure. What we're doing on the Dr. Mol show is prevention. And for me, that was a big mind shift. I qualified as a health professional, so I thought. It turns out I'm not a health professional. I'm a sickness specialist.
Okay.
As doctors, and this is not the case today, but when I was trained, we were trained to deal with disease and to treat and cure disease. But today, the answer is not cure. The answer is prevention. It's now, you and I at this young age, because we're both very young, obviously.
Just 21, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, listen, just two things. One, give us a book you'd recommend we all read, and a quote, because you've been making notes about other people's quotes, a quote that we can all jot down from you.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two books. One is a book that I read on a daily basis. That's obviously the Bible. I think that's definitely worth reading. And a book outside of that is a book called Now Discover Your Strengths, written by Marcus Buckingham, a lot around the whole kind of strengths movement. And then a quote, probably one of my favorite all-time quotes, comes from a movie called Braveheart. Right at the end of the movie, Scotland's famous freedom fighter.
I know that one, but
yes.
you say it, yeah.
Oh, well, you said it.
Not every man, every man shall die, not every man
That's
lives,
it,
right?
yes. He
Great
says to William Wallace, aren't you afraid to die? He says, every man dies, not every man really lives. And that I ask myself that question on a daily basis. Are you really living?
Well, if I put a poll, they would say Michael Mol definitely lives. He lives in our heart as well, no question about it. Listen, it's been great chatting to you. Thanks for allowing us to put you in the spotlight.
Absolute pleasure. Always good chatting to you, Ashraf.
Indeed. There we are, Dr. Michael Mol. Catch that show, the Dr. Mol show now, on a Friday at around 3:45, and I think it's repeated on a Sunday at around 4 o'clock as well. The websites, people asking, say, please get us websites, the one about strength finders. I'll double check the details, but I'll do that just before the news at 4 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. Let's get to Radio VUCA. Stay tuned for that. Let's get to Radio VUCA. Stay tuned for that. Let's get to Radio VUCA. Stay tuned for that. Let's get to Radio VUCA. Stay tuned for that. Let's get